SpaceX has become a household name thanks to game-changing technology like reusable rockets and new vehicles in human spaceflight. The company has ushered in a new age of space travel, and their future looks bright ahead. It's got a lot of people asking, when can we buy stock in such a cool company? Because it seems like such a great investment opportunity. And we don't have an answer yet, and it looks like it won't be anytime soon. However, what if I told you about a new space company about to enter the stock market? A company with a proven propulsion system and an early lead in a new space service that is about to revolutionize the entire industry. Sit back and enjoy as you get ready to learn about the momentous potential. Hey everyone, I'm Eric Thiel. Welcome to the Space Stock Exchange. The purpose of this channel is to provide you with information into publicly traded companies within the space sector. Keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor, just someone who has been following the space industry for a while. I want to share my knowledge and passion to those who are curious about space stocks and the space industry overall. Also, you can check out the community on Reddit known as Space Stock Exchange if you want to keep up to date on space stock news. Today's space stock company is Momentus. So let's learn a little bit more about this company, and let's talk about the potential and the growing space economy. Also, keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. Alright, so Momentus Space has been gaining attention in the financial world and space sector. Recently, Momentus announced they plan on taking the company public through a merger, making them a space stock company. So their goal is to develop a transportation and infrastructure service in space. This video will examine Momentus Space and how it will fit into the growing space industry. Also, I will try to analyze the broader growing space economy to help you gain insight into how Momentus could benefit from this potential future. Towards the end of this video, I will tell you if I think Momentus is a good investment, and I'll give you my reasons. And like I said again, I'm not a financial expert. This is all speculation. So rather than going through an initial public offering process, Momentus is going public through a special purpose acquisition company known as a SPAC. They're going through something called the Stable Road Acquisition Corp. The ticker symbol is SRAC. This deal should be completed in around Q1 or sometime early 2021. Which means you could own SRAC now if you wanted to be invested in Momentus when this deal is completed. After this acquisition, Momentus will be listed on the NASDAQ as ticker symbol MNTS. This deal will value Momentus at $1.2 billion with $310 million of cash on hand if the SPAC transaction is successful. Momentus believes they can have a positive cash flow by 2023 with revenue expected to exceed $500 million. So, the Momentus vision, a future where humanity is equipped to move freely throughout the solar system. Momentus is not a rocket company, but rather a space tug company. Instead of taking their customers' payloads from Earth to orbit, Momentus will focus on taking payloads from a rocket's drop-off orbit to a specific orbit that the customer desires. Think of the rocket as an airplane that takes passengers from one destination to another, for example, Earth to orbit. The space tug would be like an Uber or taxi that goes the last mile to the final destination. Momentus shuttles payloads between orbits with its space tug. This is known as the Vigoride Orbital Transfer Vehicle, also called the Vigoride Shuttle or just Vigoride. Some of Momentus's main payloads will include small satellites, cube satellites, and nanosatellites. Satellites are getting smaller, which means more of them can ride on rockets. Rocket companies like SpaceX are providing rideshare programs that allow multiple small sats access to space. The rocket can drop off small satellites in orbit. However, this often isn't the desired orbit for individual satellites. This means small sats will have to maneuver themselves to the precise destination or hitch a ride with a space tug like Vigoride. Momentus is using a water propulsion system for its Vigoride shuttle and other future tugs. Water plasma propulsion is also known as microwave electric thermal propulsion, which has been around for decades in the laboratory, but is now being made ready for practical spaceflight use. Using a microwave generator, water vapor can be heated into a stabilized plasma that can be used for spacecraft propulsion. This system is more efficient than traditional chemical rockets and faster than electric propulsion systems used. Water is also safe and affordable. Momentus demonstrated the water plasma propulsion technology on a 16U CubeSat called El Camino Real back in 2019. This was the first time a water plasma propulsion system was demonstrated in space and proved the technology works. Momentus has purchased 6 flights with SpaceX's SmallSat rideshare program, 5 of which are set for a sun-synchronous orbit and 1 to a mid-inclined low Earth orbit. A Falcon 9 rocket will deploy the rideshare payloads, including Vigoride, in low Earth orbit, which will complete the final ride for their customer's desired location. This will allow customer satellites to reach custom orbits at different inclinations, orbital planes, or altitudes. The Vigoride will be deorbited after use, but plans on being reusable when the infrastructure is built to service them. This in-space transportation for small satellites is the current business plan for now, and the demand is growing. So, SpaceX President and Chief Operating Officer Gwynne Shotwell said, "We are excited to have Momentus as SpaceX's first customer on a dedicated small satellite rideshare mission. Their innovative technology will offer a strong complement to Falcon's capability and to reliably and affordably launch payloads from small satellite operators." Momentus and SpaceX could have a strong partnership over these next few years. But also keep in mind, going forward, SpaceX has considered the possibility of building their own space tug system, which would probably use their Starship. Gwynne Shotwell at the 2020 World Satellite Business Week said that SpaceX was looking into making the Starship serve as a space tug. We'll see how that goes. It could just be, there may not be a lot of development going into that. It might just be an idea right now. However, a Momentus and SpaceX partnership could be competition for small payload delivery companies like Rocket Lab, Relativity, Firefly Aerospace, Virgin Orbit, and many other startups that are in the small rocket business. SpaceX can launch multiple satellites. multiple small satellites just with one rocket for a reasonable price. And Momentus could deliver those satellites to their final destination in space. So yeah, SpaceX could be the commercial airline plane that takes the customers to the airport, which would be orbit, and Momentus could be like that taxi or Uber that comes, picks them up, takes them to the desired location they want to get to. So Momentus will greatly benefit from the economics of ride-sharing on a rocket to deliver secondary payloads. The price to access space is declining with the help of reusable rockets and the rise of small launch providers. SpaceX is the innovative leader of rocket reusability and has disrupted the entire global launch industry with its Falcon 9 rocket. And I believe with future launch vehicles like Starship, it's going to only decrease over time. So, Momentus CEO Mikhail Kokorich said on Twitter that the Starship in-space delivery will be the cheapest option to deploy satellites to specific orbits. An image by Momentus claims that flying on a Starship would cost $500 per kilogram. However, Elon Musk said in a tweet that Starship should get the price of a kilogram below $100. The price per kilogram on a large rocket could be more affordable than small rockets. This could be a real threat to small launch providers. It could also be a great opportunity for companies that specialize in space transportation that would partner with the most affordable rocket company. My argument is SpaceX will emerge victorious in this whole rocket war. But what we're seeing now is, I think, it should be fair to call it a space tug war. And the question is, who's going to win the space tug business? Who's going to be the leader in it? And what are the competitors going to be like? Momentus still has competition in the space tug industry. Spaceflight Industries has their own space tug known as Sherpa. This will also fly along with the Vigoride on the upcoming SpaceX rideshare mission. 2 Sherpa space tugs flew back in December of 2018 when it was launched on a Falcon 9 rocket. Momentus is also looking at the possibility of servicing and refueling satellites in space. In-orbit satellite servicing was one of the main reasons for NASA to build the Space Shuttle fleet. Astronauts could assist satellites in orbit that needed repairs or other services. The crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger demonstrated the first rescue mission of a malfunctioned satellite in 1984. In 1992, the first mission of Space Shuttle Endeavour was also used to service a satellite, which had failed to leave Earth orbit and needed to reach geosynchronous orbit. This mission was the only time in history where all 3 astronauts conducted an extravehicular activity at once. Extravehicular activity is known as an EVA, also known as a spacewalk. These shuttles were used multiple times to repair and service satellites throughout their history, most notably the iconic Hubble Space Telescope, which was serviced several times and had its altitude raised on these missions so it could continue its discoveries in astronomy. The last mission to service the Hubble was in 2009. But here's the thing about space shuttles. Life support systems with the space shuttle and with the astronaut spacesuits used limited the amount of time crews could spend in space or conducting an EVA. Shuttle missions were also expensive to fund, and they required years to prepare for. Humans do have the ability to perform dexterous tasks in orbit. However, it is difficult to work in zero gravity while being exposed to the harsh environment of space. Luckily now, servicing missions don't demand the need for human intervention like they once did. The first satellite mission to use a telerobotically operated spacecraft was done by the MEV when it serviced Intelsat 901 in 2002. In 2020. This photo I'll show you is it's taken by the MEV-1. It's taking a picture of Intelsat 901. And you can see the Earth off in the distance. That's because they're at a geosynchronous orbit, which is around 22,000 miles away from Earth. This satellite is a geosynchronous orbit, is where the satellite is orbiting at the same pace the Earth is rotating, so it's always pointed at a fixed spot on Earth. So this mission was the first time a human was not needed to assist the service of a satellite in orbit, which is good because right now we have no spacecraft that can reach geosynchronous orbit at this time. The shuttles couldn't do that. They were limited to an altitude of around 400 miles above the Earth. They just didn't have enough fuel to get that far out. So it's important to use robotic systems to do this sort of thing. The MAV, which stands for the Mission Extension Vehicle, was built by Northrop Grumman and is designed to dock and undock additional times, meaning it could enable the service for additional satellites. Also, MEV-2 is already en route to its next satellite to service, and will arrive there soon, within the next few months. Momentus could be a competitor for Northrop Grumman in this new satellite service business. An autonomous robotic system is more affordable and can spend long periods in space. This would enable a new business strategy. Satellites will be able to extend the life of their satellites using a service partner, which I believe will create more demand for Momentus space tugs. Satellite companies won't need to rely on expensive hardware to move to their desired orbits, but rather use Momentus, such as the Vigoride, and there's also the upcoming craft. And a Vigoride should be able to perform as many as 10 different satellite servicing missions until it needs to be refueled. So remember how I said the Hubble Space Telescope was last serviced in 2009? Well, I'm sure this telescope will want to continue its legacy, which means that in the future there should be a service mission. Satellites do suffer from something called orbital decay, where they do slow down and eventually they will enter the Earth's atmosphere and burn up. So Hubble Telescope has until about 2030 to 2040 until it needs to worry about this. But I think the Hubble Telescope is very iconic. It may be an old telescope. It was deployed in 1990. It was built in the 80s. But still, it's very it's in a very important telescope, and I think it should continue its work. I think it still has value, and I think it would be important to see a space tug, something like the Vigoride, go up and service it. Hopefully that happens in the future. So, as I try to gain a detailed analysis of Momentus, I see a lot of potential in the growing space industry that is happening before our eyes. We see rocket companies like SpaceX. They are leading the way as a launch provider. They are lowering the cost of spaceflight because of reusable rockets, and they're the leader in reusable rockets, but other companies are pursuing this. Rocket Lab with their Electron rocket is going to attempt reusability. We have China, Russia also looking at the possibility. The European Space Agency, if Blue Origin flies, they'll try to have a reusable system with their orbital vehicle. Their suborbital rocket is already reusable. So yeah, that's bringing the cost down. New opportunities are opening up. There was an interesting video clip Jim Bridenstine had back in October of 2019. He was talking to a meeting, talking on the new spacesuits that NASA was using for its Artemis program, and he had something really interesting to say. I want to show you that.
I really think we are 3 to 7 years away from at least one major breakthrough that will result in the industrialization of low Earth orbit, in a way where private capital will flow into habitation in low Earth orbit. In other words, commercial space stations.
So he believes that there should be some kind of breakthrough technology that will result in the industrialization of low Earth orbit. Usually this could apply to maybe manufacturing in a microenvironment, but I think a lot of it has to do with biomedical technologies, such as people are realizing you can 3D print, use a 3D printer to create human tissue or maybe create some kind of organ. And the reason why you have to do this in a zero-G environment is on Earth, the gravity is hard to these organs. It kind of breaks them apart. It doesn't quite work the exact way it wants. So the idea is you could 3D print a human organ in orbit. So this opens up a huge possibility of people maybe wanting to create large space stations to use as production and manufacturing for developing these kind of tissues and organs. So that would be interesting to see if that does happen. I believe Momentus would definitely have would take have a great opportunity from that. I would see opportunities, huge investments in space, creating a lot of new capital, meaning investors would come to the market, they would invest in new companies, they would try to work on developing other companies. Momentus is one of those companies that's publicly traded that could benefit from this. So another important thing about Momentus is their propulsion system relies on water. Water is key to the long-term vision of exploration, the expansion, and development of space. NASA's recent discovery of water on the Moon confirms that water is more abundant than previously thought. And we keep discovering water. The LaCrosse mission found water in the craters of the Moon. Water was discovered on Mars. We know there's ice as well. You could heat it up. Water can be split using electricity through something called electrolysis. It splits into hydrogen and oxygen, which can be used as fuel. Obviously, water is used as a life support. You can use that oxygen for air for astronauts. So this opens up a lot of possibilities. Also the possibility of harvesting water ice from asteroids or from the Moon to generate plasma propellant for space travel into the solar system. And I think there's a lot of possibility to for asteroid mining in the future, but I think that deserves its own video. So I'm going to just leave it right here. I'm going to say there are a lot of benefits Momentus has right now as a company. We just need to watch it and follow how its next few missions are going to go with SpaceX. I think it's got a lot of potential. I've thrown a little money into it, not a lot. Just like I think I've bought maybe 85 shares. It's mostly because I'm passionate about their idea and I want to be a part of that. I want to, kind of bet on the team. I'm not super bullish, but I still think it would be fun to kind of just watch it over time. I think they do have a bull case that could build up over time, and it would be nice to see how they fit in. obviously they're exploring something that really not too many competitors are involved in. There's just not a whole lot of space tugs. Pretty much mentioned the Sherpa and the MEV, which are the only ones that have actually performed space flights. There's other ones that have been sitting on the table by big aerospace companies, but they've never really come to fruition. That being said, I think Momentus could have a head start. They are the only ones exploring this water plasma propulsion. This is very important if you want to launch your satellites from a habitable station, such as the International Space Station. There's other space stations being built. They launch a lot of nanosatellites off the International Space Station, and if you were going to maybe a space tug could visit the International Space Station, pick up satellites, take them to other orbits. It would probably be best to use water plasma propulsion because it is safe. Other spacecraft use something known as ion plasma propulsion, which uses xenon gases. These can be kind of toxic. You don't want to be around them. Think about the Dragon mission that was conducted in 2020 by SpaceX. It parachuted down into the ocean, and you had a bunch of boats kind of surrounding it, a bunch of just average people wanting to check it out. Well, that wasn't actually safe because there was toxic gases on board the spacecraft, and you don't want to be around this. So yeah, I do believe there is a potential that space is going to really start to scale up. We're going to see a huge industrialization of space because SpaceX is working towards lowering the cost of space travel, and Jim Bridenstine believes that there's going to be breakthrough technologies that'll allow the industrialization. I really do see something taking off in the next few years, and like I said, there's going to be huge demand for all sorts of things. You're going to want to transport things routinely. You want infrastructure to be assembled. Momentus is working with robotic companies. Honeybee Robotics, I know it's working on some kind of robotic system that could be scaled up. It could serve as some kind of pod, maybe some kind of robotic pod that could assemble space stations. You do generally need a robotic arm to kind of conduct this sort of stuff. So, EVAs are pretty challenging. A space tug system, a robotic space tug system, would serve a huge potential in space station construction. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to say we need to just keep watching. We're going to see a lot of exciting stuff. The first rideshare program is in December of 2020. So I'm going to follow that, and I'm going to stay up to date, and hopefully I'll provide you with more information. If you like this video, if you enjoyed it, thank you. This was my first one. Please like and subscribe, share if you find it valuable. Also, check out the Reddit page, Space Stock Exchange. We talk a lot more about, we cover this routinely, any new news, it's going to be posted up there. You can have discussions, you can learn more. Check it out, and thank you, and thanks for enjoying this Space Stock Exchange.